LSCDS Speaks. This is a new initiative by LSCDS with the goal of enhancing professional growth for students and postdocs. My name is Maria, and I will be your host as we talk about all things professional development to help you make that next career move. But before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsors listed on the screen here, without whose support this episode would not be possible. In this episode, it's all about the Expo. Stay tuned for more information on this exciting career development event hosted by the LSCDS in May. But first, a common myth about grad school is that it only sets you up for a career in the hallowed halls of academia. No one knows this better than our guest today, Dr. Pam Plant. Dr. Plant is an adjunct scientist and genomic specialist at Unity Health, where she provides experimental support to the research community. In addition, she has helped to bring in millions of dollars in vital new infrastructure to the Institute and is dedicated to integrating these innovative technologies. Pam is passionate about trainee education and began the Research Core Facilities Core Clinics Education Program, where RCF specialists run dozens of unique courses for trainees in a broad range of basic science techniques. Hi, Pam. It's great to have you here today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm honored to be invited.
Thank you. We really appreciate getting your perspective on the LSCE. And I know it's your first time being a part of it this year. So would you be able to tell us a little bit more about that and how you got involved in helping graduate students with their professional development?
Yeah, it's a very interesting journey with the graduate professional development. It really started with Reinhard Reifmeyer, who is I think a very legendary figure in the IMS at U of T. He and Nana Lee were two very influential people in my own professional development. They created the whole concept of graduate professional development and made it into a curriculum, started it at University of Toronto, and it's a wildly successful program in many of the different faculties within medicine at U of T. So it really was my work there, largely at the suggestion of Reinhardt, who I take over the course for him while he was on sabbatical. That really got my toes dipping into GPD. And of course, because I was working with Nana and Reinhardt when they were conceiving the idea, and I was part of a think tank that helped get GPD to where it is today, we really are intimately linked with LSCE, and that's really my segue into the panel and the steering committee, and of course I will be at the actual event doing information or practice interviews.
It's really exciting that you're part of the initialization of promoting graduate professional development in academia. I was wondering, as you got involved in it, how did being on such a committee benefit your own professional development?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think, in the spirit of GPD and what I teach in class, meaningful engagement is such an important part of anyone's career development. So for me, at my age and stage in my career, any kind of meaningful engagement is still very much a part of my growth. So being part of GPD and LSCDS, this really has expanded my network. It's expanded my own growth. My own skill sets. It's something very different than I do in my everyday job. So I think those opportunities are so very important for your own personal and professional growth.
How would you encourage other faculty to get involved with similar initiatives and perhaps encourage their students to also get involved?
Yeah, very, very important. And I think more so important now, especially in IMS, where IDP or individual development plans are going to be de rigueur. They're going to be mandatory for all incoming students. So supervisors and students are going to be, maybe forced is a strong word, but they're going to be strongly encouraged to have a discourse on development of the student outside the project that they are going to be assigned for their thesis. So I think supervisors, PIs are going to be made more aware that the development of their student is part of their job. And being a part of the LSCDS and encouraging students to go to the Expo is just such an important piece of personal and professional development. So I think it's very important that all PIs encourage their students to go, but more so be involved in the steering committee, because they can really influence what type of offerings there are at the Expo as well.
That's really exciting for the future. I think it'll really help with mentorship of students as well. And I was wondering, so you were talking a lot about the future and how things will be beneficial for students. What about in your own career journey? So when you were in grad school, did you have any similar events or
Wow. I
yeah?
wish I did. I'm going to belie my age here, because I'm going to tell you that, first of all, there was nothing like this, nothing at all like this. The mere concept that we can leverage our PhDs and go into alternative careers outside of academia was just not a notion that was promoted. So I was very much in the conventional school of thought that you did your PhD and you got an academic position, and that's all you were good for. So if there were events, they were usually career symposia. And if they were really avant-garde and edgy, they would have a woman on the panel who had an academic career. And everyone just flocked to that woman. How is this possible? How do you get your job? How do you manage, raising a family, your relationship, looking after parents with your academic career? It was, I was the day and age where there were not a lot of women in academic positions. So having something like this would have been a game changer. I think I would have felt less like a failure not having gone the academic route into a proper conventional academic position with my PhD and my postdoc. I would have been encouraged to leverage all of the assets I had from completing my PhD into a successful career outside of academia. I would have known what the possibilities are. I would have made connections. It just would have been normalized. And I think that really would have been a game changer for me. So all the more reason I'm encouraging all my students in my GPD class to get to this expo just to see what the possibilities are and talk to the people that are actually in these jobs, so they get a flavor of what is out there.
That's such an amazing statement to encourage people to participate. I feel like I was also part of not like a time when this was more of a transition. And I think these things were being talked about, but it wasn't as actively encouraged. And the
Yeah.
LSCE is a way to really encourage this. And so let's talk about the LSCE a little bit. And to do that, we have two of the team co-leads with us today. Bushra and Melissa. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
I can get us started. So my name is Bushra. I have been with the LSCDS for a number of years now. This year, it is my pleasure to, alongside with Melissa, organize the LSCE. I am a PhD candidate doing my PhD out of SickKids and hoping to graduate soon.
Hi, my name is Melissa. This is my second year with LSCDS and my second year actually with LSCE. Last year I was an associate and this year I am a co-team lead. I am also finishing up my PhD. I'm currently in the Department of Immunology at SickKids. Yeah.
Well, thank you both for the introductions. Would you be able to tell us more about what LSCE is and its purpose?
So the purpose of LSCE is actually one of our biggest events through LSCDS, and it is a larger conference in which we help bridge the gap between academia and life sciences careers. So last year, as well as this year, it's a 3-day event. And this year it will be hybrid. So our first 2 days, May 1st and May 3rd, will be taking place virtually on our 4Waves platform. And our last day, May 4th, the Thursday, will be taking place in person at Hart House. It is a larger scale conference, as we mentioned. It is the largest through LSCDS, and we're looking to have approximately 80 professional guests just for the in-person component, and we've recruited approximately 150 professional guests. So last year we had about 400 attendees, And this year, we are looking to be our biggest LSCE yet, as we've also been offering the opportunity to other students within Canada.
That's amazing. That sounds like a really exciting, both virtual and in-person event. And I was wondering, there are often other career expos, but Shara, what do you think makes LSCE different than other expos?
LSCE has now been running for 6 years, and we take pride in saying that our programming is largely determined by what trainees want to see. So every year we do a post-event survey. We like to hear from the trainees, what did they really like? What did they miss out? What do they want to see us try to include next year? This could be from whole sectors or industries that they would like to have professional guests attend from, or if they would like more time from an existing panel or a topic. So we really go into the reviews and make sure that we are bringing exactly what the trainees would like to see. And I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, but we have 2 new career panels this year. This is informed by trainee demand. So the trainees have asked us to showcase the diversity in careers offered through bioinformatics, as well as clinical research. And we heard you, trainees, and we are bringing these career panels to you. So we're very excited, and we're looking forward to fulfilling the trainees' dreams.
That's amazing, and it sounds very personalized, and it really when you get those feedback surveys, I guess, fill them out because it'll help you get what you want later on. So I'd love to learn about all your perspectives on this, but I would want to know, in your experience with LSCE, what makes it stand out to you personally? Pam, would you like to first give us your experience with it?
Well, in the steering committee with Melissa and Bushra, I think it's just been a phenomenal experience. First of all, they're my new best friends, so I've really enjoyed working with them. I get a lot of energy out of working with the students, especially ones that are so committed, smart, and dedicated, and just so good at what they do. So that's been a joy. But I think, moreover, just being part of the committee, it's really expanded my network, and it's given me a lot of developing a lot of skills that, again, I don't necessarily develop in my everyday job. So I think it's been really invaluable for me to be a part of this, and I'm grateful that I was asked to be a part of it.
Bushra and Melissa, what really makes LSCE stand out for both of you?
So we try to showcase diversity at LSCE, whether it's in representation, making sure that we have all of the different types of people that you would see in your classes, as well as how they move on into industry. So making sure that all sides of the story are represented, but also not only will you see big firms, you'll see small firms, you'll see firms in between, you'll see startups. We're trying to make sure that we're covering the spectrum of industry. Of course, it's impossible to show you everything, but we try our best to make sure that we're capturing a good amount of what you can expect beyond academia, and academia included.
Yeah, I think speaking to the diversity component, we also have quite a diverse number of different sessions as well. I know often for graduate students, we're not used to networking, to getting back into it. It can be often daunting. So just going to an event that's straight networking or speaking one-on-one with professionals can be quite intimidating. But I think that's why we offer things like the company spotlights or the career panels, in which a lot of students can just listen to opinions, start to form what sectors they're interested in, what sectors they might not be, and then kind of learn the questions to ask for specific sectors so that they can gain their confidence throughout the days of the conference, and then get to the third day in which we start doing the actual networking, and they might be more confident, more prepared to ask specific questions and know more about which field they're most interested in. So that's what I really liked about LSCE. And also, obviously, very much expanding my network, meeting some wonderful people. It's fantastic. And it's not something you get to do every day during your PhD when you're stuck in the lab. So getting out there, socializing, and really expanding your next steps, it's great.
Just further to what Bushra and Melissa were saying, I think I'm really excited from the GPD component. For the in-person day, there are going to be mock interviews. There are also going to be resume workshops. So I think that's really a fascinating aspect to have in a career expo, where there are actually hands-on workshops that people can sign up for. I think that's so critical, and that's really what makes this Expo very different than anything else that's being offered.
I think that's one thing that we also got feedback from last year. We did last year have quite a few workshops, and they were just kind of suggesting what to do, but a lot of people requested to make them interactive. So that is what we did this year. So the resume workshops will be hosted by people from the Career Center, in which they will be physically there looking over your resume with you. So I think that's very important.
Well, those all sound like amazing selling features. I'd love to get a better sense of scope. So would one of our team leads be able to tell us a little bit more about the structure of the events and what we should expect?
So I can jump in really quickly and just do a numbers dive. So we're expecting around 400 trainees. We've recruited around 150 professional guests. We have a lot of different types of sessions. We're going to have a stellar keynote to kick us off. We're going to have a career workshop to help us get really focused and learn how to make the best of a career expo. We're going to have company spotlights, as Melissa mentioned. So this is where we're going to group companies together, and trainees can just learn about different companies in the same sector. We're going to have career panels, so where we'll have professional guests representing their different sectors. Not only will they be representing their sector, they'll be representing different stages of the career path. So we hope to bring in people who have just started in the industry, people who have been there for some time, and people who are really at the top of their game, so we can hear all sides of the story. And to top it all off, we're going to have a virtual networking roundtables. We're going to have in-person networking roundtables, and then all of the workshops and practice interviews in person. So a lot of different types of programming depending on what you're looking for. And I hope I answered your question.
Definitely. So there are a lot of different events. And I was wondering, Melissa, how do you think attendees can make the most out of these events?
Yeah, so I think attendees can definitely make the most out of the virtual components by trying to attend as many sessions really as they can, and to learn most about the companies through our company spotlights, and then the different sectors. So those would be through each of our different career panels. So I can just mention what our career panels will be this year. So we're bringing back the same ones we had last year. So that would be academia, public sector, medical communications, consulting, research and development, and then medical regulatory affairs. And then, as Bushra mentioned, we have our new two highly requested career panels that are the clinical research and the bioinformatics. So just attending those, listening to the different perspectives of the different professionals at the different stages of their career journeys will be great. And then I think based on last year's feedback, they asked us to make these sessions earlier so that they could become more informed when they moved on to the more specific components. So that would be the networking, and then also the practice interviews. So I think gaining all that knowledge through the virtual, and then bringing that to what you know and what you want to get out of the in-person component. So when you come to the in-person component, so those are the workshops, the practice interviews, and the open networking, I think it's most important for attendees to come prepared, and also with a very open mind. So if you want to specifically speak to someone in a certain sector because you really want a job in that sector, if you don't get to speak to them right away, I think it's also important to speak to someone else, a different professional. You don't know if that professional also perhaps started at the beginning of their career journey in that same position, but then evolved to a different role they had now. So I think sometimes as trainees, we get very narrow-headed. We're very used to that from our own research components. So I think to have an open mind is also very important in attending these sessions.
Definitely. And I know apart from various professionals, you're going to also have multiple different companies attending. I was wondering what the difference is going to be in the companies attending the virtual and in-person components of the event.
We do have a variety of companies. Some have elected to do spotlights, and some have elected specifically to do booths. Some have elected to do both, which is great. Some of them this year, we have some hospitals, some medical communications companies, some R&D companies, and also some up and coming startups have officially registered. We're still looking to expand, and we're still looking to get more companies to join as well.
Nice. So I also know that you mentioned there's going to be a lot of networking. And Bushra, I was wondering what you think the main takeaways or benefits could be for attendees from the networking roundtables.
So this is a great way to hear from a real person on their experiences in a particular industry. As Melissa said, whether it's an industry you have a ton of questions about or one that you haven't considered for yourself personally, not only do you get to hear a unique insider perspective, listening to the questions your peers have, and then contrasting the experiences of different professionals from different sectors at the same table can be very informative to your own experience. Not only will you learn to make connections, but you can follow up with them in the future. And don't worry at all if you don't get all of your questions in at the networking session. This is the perfect segue for you to then follow up with this professional and ask them your questions and continue the conversation.
That's a really good tip about building your network. So I know there's going to be both in-person and virtual networking. Do you think trainees should try and attend both, or is one more preferable?
That's a good question. So at both our virtual and in-person networking, we will have professionals representing most, if not all, of the sectors that we will showcase over LSCE. So yes, there will be different professionals attending the roundtables virtually or in person on the different days. Because LSCE is a national conference, we aim to provide opportunities to both our local and our national attendees. So this means that we would encourage trainees to attend one or the other session, whichever is more convenient for them or whichever they have a preference for. So not both sessions, just so that we can give all trainees a fair chance to access networking, but we will have waiting lists in case there are trainees who would like to attend both, and then we will take it from there. But just a reminder that this is a national conference, so whatever is making more sense to you at the time.
I think that's a really good point, and it makes the entire conference more inclusive, which is fantastic. So earlier you also mentioned a resume workshop. Would you be able to tell me a little bit more about that? And importantly, should trainees come with their resume prepared to this workshop?
Yes, absolutely. So there are 2 steps to participating in resume workshops. First, select that you would like to participate when you register for the in-person event at Hart House, and this is because spots are limited. And secondly, please bring your resume. We plan for this workshop to be conducted in small groups, and this is so that trainees can look at real-life examples from their peers and then also receive personalized feedback from staff and professionals from the Career Center. And so your resume is the first contact with a professional recruiter. It's your chance to showcase yourself, display your brand, and land that interview. And so having it perfected into the best possible form is the starting point of your career journey. So really coming to the resume workshop will be a good solidification of a solid skill that you're going to need for the rest of your career journey. And lastly, learning to adapt your resume for different roles that you're going to be applying for will also be an essential skill. And hopefully we can help you learn that at the resume workshops.
That's a great point. Like how always getting a second perspective on your resumes is extremely helpful, especially when it's coming from a professional. Ideally, this workshop will help you land that interview. And so I know there's a second workshop about interview preparation. So Melissa, I was wondering, with the interview preparation workshop, should you come to it with a job in mind? And would you be able to tell me anything more about the interview workshop?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, it is normally like the second step, but it is not required to have a job in mind. The only requirement for signing up for practice interviews is to have submitted a resume beforehand. So when you do register on the site, there is a link to go to a paper form to fill out. And as Bushra said, we need pre-registration for the resume critiques as well as the practice interviews. So we just need that resume beforehand so we can screen and select candidates, as we do have only a limited number of spots. And the purpose of these mini interviews is to give trainees the face-to-face experience that we have missed during the pandemic and an overview of a professional setting. So it's really, the first is to help them conduct themselves professionally in a challenging setting, in a professional setting. And the second thing we're aiming to do is to practice some behavioral questions and some more tailored questions to receive feedback from their interviewer. So these sessions are structured as 15 minutes of an interview, and then 5 minutes of just feedback from the interviewer to the student or the attendee, just to give them some critiques, some job well done, or some things to improve for next time. And these interviews are great for students that are looking for jobs or in the process of job searching, but also those that are just looking to brush up on such an essential skill that we all definitely could use some practice on.
That was a great overview of all the events. So would you be able to give us a sneak peek of any of the guests?
Yes, I can. We are still in the process of finishing up recruitment, but we have professional guests lined up from all of the different sectors that we have mentioned. So we have guests from academia, we have guests from R&D, from pharma, from startups, from bioinformatics, from policy, from government. The list goes on. So really, truly, if you have a professional and a job in mind, it is highly likely that they will be attending in some capacity.
That's quite a wide variety. And after talking to all those guests, do you know of any success stories of students who participated in LSCE and got their dream job after?
From our own networks, I know that I have been attending LSCE as an attendee pretty much since the start of grad school. And a number of years ago, some of my cohort graduated after their master's, and I stayed on to do my PhD, but we all went to LSCE together. And I remember one of my friends was very excited because she had landed a coffee chat with Click, and she was very excited because she wanted to go into medical communications. This was perfect. And she had a very good experience with the manager whom she had a coffee chat with, and they connected afterwards, and the manager offered them a referral for applying to the job when they were ready to apply, and it worked out, and they work at Click. So it happens.
Yeah, very inspiring. That was a great breakdown of the LSCE events. And thank you all for being here today. I hope sharing this encourages both faculty and students to attend.
Thank you. And we'll see you at the LSCE.
Register for the virtual component on our website, so our 4 Waves link. And then for the in-person, we have a separate link, and that is via Eventbrite.
And you will find all of this information in one place on our website. But if this podcast was not enough to convince you to come to LSCE, there will also be an information day on April 5th. So keep an eye out in your emails, and you can come to that as well.
Thank you again to Pam, Bushra, and Melissa for highlighting this amazing opportunity to help trainees navigate their own career journeys. If you're interested in learning more about different career paths or want to get more constructive criticism, be sure to sign up early for the National Expo in May. In our next episode of LSCDS Speaks, we will be discussing how to navigate one of the toughest scenarios you will find on the job. That is, when and how to say no. Stay tuned for the last Monday of every month and enjoy LSCDS Speaks, a podcast brought to you by graduate students and postdocs who aim to improve professional development. Bye for now, and looking forward to seeing you at the Expo.